Welcome to Front Office Pros. This is week 9 sit starts. I'm Dustin. That's Joe. We're here to help you with your sit start decisions for week 9. Joe, how's it going today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself, Dustin?
I'm doing good. I'm cautiously optimistic about tonight's game. Like maybe we'll see something good from Will Levis and Kenny Pickett. There's worse games on the schedule this week, so I'm happy that this game is on Thursday because there's some real stinkers this week. So I'm happy it's not one of those on Thursday night. But
Yeah, I mean, both when both teams are not that great but competitive. I mean, it makes for a decent game. And like you said, Kenny Pickett, playing off the rib injury, we'll see how he does. And interested to see, Will Levis in his second start. He impressed on his first start against the Falcons. See if he can build on that and continue that trend with DeAndre Hopkins.
yeah, it's what Will Levis needed to start. Like you get a bad Falcons defense, you get a bad Pittsburgh defense, who does decent in the secondary, and Joey Porter Jr. has been playing well, but I think it was what I said about Will Levis all along. He needed like 6 games, if not to a year, to sit. So he got his 7 games to sit and learned, and then it was forced into action because of the injuries. Looks like Malik Willis was trying to get rotated in last week, and then had that fumble and is just done now. So he's got Hopkins, he's got Chigakonkwo, he's still got Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears, Nick Westbrook, right, Traylon Burke. So he's got some decent weapons. I'll say this, and I said this the other day on Sunday morning on a podcast, that he can sling it. Like he's got a ton of velocity, he got a ton of arm talent, but he has some touch. He definitely has leadership. It's just I think that kind of borderline cocky to confident scale. I think he's just borderline too cocky at times. I think he's been humbled and it seems like he's doing things the right way. He looked dialed in on his walk in today. I saw a couple tweets of that. Like he just looked excited. He wasn't like hamming it up for the cameras. Like just came in like a bomber jacket, just walked straight in, looked real dialed in. So I'm excited for what we might see from him tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he was a guy I wasn't very high on, but we'll see if he continues to prove me wrong and look pretty good. I mean, once I, once I saw the videos of the coffee and the mayonnaise and he eats the bananas with the peels on, man, that was a little weird for me. I had to be out of there.
The banana peels I don't mind because like there is nutrition in the peels and like it just doesn't taste good. The mayo is just odd. Like why? Like if you want extra protein, like there's other ways you can get protein. I don't understand it at all. So well, since we're talking quarterbacks, Joe, why don't you give me your smash quarterback of the week for week 9?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dak Prescott this week. A little bit of a surprise, but Dak has finished as the QB1 and the QB3 the last 2 weeks. Eagles just gave up a QB1 performance to Sam Howell last week, and in the last 3 matchups against the Eagles, he hasn't thrown for fewer than 3 touchdowns in any game over the last 3 against the Eagles. And I'm looking for Dak to stay hot and be a smash play at quarterback and possibly finish as a top 3 quarterback again this week. Um, and I'd be looking to possibly, start Dak over guys like Tua against the Chiefs, Joe Burrow against Buffalo, Lamar with Seattle. But I would kind of draw the line with Jalen Hurts. I don't mind Jalen Hurts against that Cowboys defense across the field from him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Dak's is huge play this week. I think CeeDee Lamb has shown that he can be kind of matchup proof. That secondary for the Eagles has been banged up. Obviously, they got Kevin Byard, a week ago, so he'll be out there probably on CeeDee Lamb in the slot, which is where CeeDee Lamb's lining up a ton. Just a matter to me if Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks can step up on the outside against Slay and Bradbury, take some of the pressure off. If the tight end can step up and be something, if Ferguson can be a good play or not. But I think Dak's a great play. I think he is a top 5 guy this week. I agree with you. I'm starting him over to. I don't really love that the Dolphins flew over today. No, they flew over Monday, which I love. Kansas City flew over today, which I don't love. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
We know that these international games, jet lag plays into it. I agree. Burrow versus the Bills. I'm not loving that. Lamar against Seattle. I agree with you that I'm starting Hurts over Dak, though. You can't not start Jalen Hurts right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I give the advantage to the team. Whoever goes over first. We've seen it with the London games earlier this year. The team that goes over earlier generally has been winning, and they just look better. They've acclimated to that time zone change, and Chiefs. We'll see what happens, but maybe they should have went over a little early as well.
Yeah. So if you don't know, the Dolphins went over on Monday. The Chiefs flew over today, I guess this morning. or in flight. I'm not sure what the time zone or when time happens now, but they definitely left on Thursday. So we'll see what that has effect on Mahomes and Kelsey in that group. I'll give you my sleeper quarterback for the week, and this is going to sound gross to you, but it is Zach Wilson of the New York Jets. The Chargers are giving up the most points to quarterbacks right now. If not for the 2 fumbles last week, Zach Wilson has a pretty good day. I think he scored like 12 fantasy points. You give him those 2 fumbles back because you probably get negative points for your league in that, so that's an extra couple points there. He needs a TD or 2 to really be in that upper echelon, but we've seen him be serviceable without a touchdown. I think it's a good matchup for him. And he's a good spot start this week with all the injuries we have. I mean, we're talking about no Cousins, possibly no Stafford. Like, you're getting Clayton Tune in Arizona. You're getting all these just kind of like, meh. You're getting Aiden O'Connell. You're just getting who knows who playing quarterback. So he might be a decent spot start. I think I have in that mid-range where I'm comparing them to guys like probably having them, over some of these names like Jordan Love and Sam Howell. I think I have them below the big names, below the Tua, the Mahomes, the Lamar Burrow, the Geno Smith. I think he's right there with like Geno Smith and Jared Goff this week. Probably the low-ranked QB1 side for me.
Yeah, well, he's got to be over Goff. Goff's on a bye this week, but
there you go.
Interesting though. You would like Zach Wilson over Sam Howell, who's been a guy that you can rely on. He's like the quarterback 11, 12 on the year. So
yeah, I mean, I think they're real close. But I think I would take the upside rate. Sam Howell he's playing New England, has McLaurin and Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel, who are just meh. Whereas, Zach Wilson still has Garrett Wilson to throw the ball to, and still has Breece Hall, who's really good and can catch the ball. So I like that matchup for him against the Chargers. And the Chargers put up points. So there's a chance that Zach Wilson's going to have to throw late in the game. It's not like they can just run the ball out, or they get up and they can just run it, and he doesn't have those turnover-worthy plays. So that's where I'm at. Zach Wilson is my sleeper for the week. Joe, Go ahead.
Yeah, I like your sleeper, though. I mean, it's hard to deny that matchup. The Chargers have just been a sieve to, quarterbacks in the receiving game there. Their secondary just gets burned. So I like your call out there.
Yeah, and if you guys have sit-start questions, drop them in the chat. We'd love to answer them. So looks like we got one from Astro GFX. He said, would you rather start Cook, Gus, or Myers in the full PPR? James Cook, and that is.
Yeah, I was going to say that is James Cook, yeah.
So who you starting in PPR there, Joe?
Boy. I think I'd just roll with James Cook out of those options. I do like Jacoby Myers, but the problem is I'm concerned with Aiden O'Connell in there. Last time we saw him, it was against the Chargers. He hyper targeted Devontae Adams. That could happen again. He's the squeaky wheel. The problem with the James Cook is the only thing I don't like about him is the Bills just don't use the guy enough, in my opinion. I mean, they should be throwing the guy the ball more. They need to get him on the outside in these runs. Did have 14 carries last week against the Bucs, but would like some more touches. And I think Gus Edwards could be in for a little bit of a down game. Doesn't have the best matchup against the Seahawks, so I'd probably go James Cook out of those options.
Yeah, see, I roll with Gus Edwards. I'm a little more worried about Leonard Fournette vulturing some of the goal line work from James Cook and possibly some of the late game, I don't want to call it garbage time, but like him kind of run the clock out work from James Cook. So I think Fournette could have a bigger role than we're expecting and could vulture some of that work. So I like Gus Edwards for the touchdown upside in that. I agree with you. I'm out on Jacoby Myers with Aiden O'Connell. Can't start him this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm expecting the Bills to be from behind, and maybe they do got to throw it to James Cook a little bit. I mean, the Bengals have been.
It's not a bad pass catching back either.
You think he's going to play this week, like right out of the gate?
I do think he plays. Yeah.
Interesting. So I wasn't really considering Fournette because I thought maybe we'd see him in a maybe next week or the week after.
No, I think he plays. I mean, he's practicing. I tweeted at him. He hasn't tweeted me back, but I'm waiting for him to confirm if he's going to play or not. But he's up there. He made an interesting comment about the cold weather in Buffalo, even though he's out there in like short shorts in practice. But I think he plays. I think they're going to use him. He might be limited on the snap count, but I do think he's in shape and ready to play. So I'm expecting him to go this week. If not, it's still Latavius Murray's going to take that role too. So
yeah, but hopefully they just if Fournette's gone and it gets to the goal line situation, hopefully they don't let Latavius Murray do it because he's had several chances now and hasn't come through, and he's gotten like 3 or 4 chances and gotten 1 yard and hasn't gotten the touchdown. So
yeah, it seems like they're rolling out the like weird like flip pass to the like the Chiefs do to Kelsey with Dalton Kincaid. So maybe they'll run more of that and not run Latavius Murray, because Latavius Murray is like, I'm going to get you 2 yards. I'm going to hit people and just fall forward, and that's what I get. He's not busting off big runs anymore. So back to the quarterback. Who's your stinker this week, Joe, at quarterback?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that Jets-Chargers matchup, and I'm going to say Justin Herbert could be in for a little bit of a stinker. Jets defense is along the 3rd lowest passing yards per attempt, the 4th lowest passer rating, and the 10th fewest fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. It's a interesting, skeptical with the Chargers offense. Josh Palmer's coming in banged up. They don't have Mike Williams. They got Keenan Allen. Austin Eckler's looking, healthier. I just think that there's room for the Chargers to struggle offensively in this one going up against the Jets. I'd be looking to start guys like might be willing to throw out guys like Sam Howell, Derek Carr, taking advantage of a good matchup against Chicago. I like Minshew against the Panthers as well this week. But I would not be looking to play Jordan Love though.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on those. I think it's a rough week for Justin Herbert. We know the Jets have a good secondary with Sauce Gardner, who's probably going to be on Keenan Allen. If it's not, it's Reed, who's also really good. Palmer's banged up. Quentin Johnson hasn't impressed. They're also probably missing both tight ends. It sounds like Gerald Everett's out, and Donald Parham has also been on injured reserve. They actually brought up Nick Vannett, so it could be like Nick Vannett and Cold Stone Smart. His name is Cole Smart, but his name is Stone. Cole Stone Smart. Shout out to Coop for that one. That he may be playing more snaps and seeing some things. So that's not great in terms of like losing weapons. So it is, if you're the Jets defense, you just have to do Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and I think you're pretty much locked them down. So I agree with you. I think that's a good stinker in Justin Herbert. I don't know if I would start Minshew over him. That's a risky one for me.
I like the matchup though.
I like the matchup of Minshew's just he's fun and exciting, but it's like it's just real nerve-wracking because it's like nothing. All of a sudden it's like something, and you're like, okay, now I got something. But yeah, I think Justin Herbert's in for a down week for everybody. Let's move to the running back position. I will give you my smash for the play, and it is Jonathan Taylor, which sounds crazy because it's Jonathan Taylor, but we've seen Jonathan Taylor kind of be in this mixed bag with Zach Moss. But the Panthers are giving up the 2nd most points to running backs. Panthers can't score, so this is going to be a ball control, like run-heavy offense for the Colts, which is kind of why I'm maybe a little bit more out of Minshew. JT's snaps have increased every week since he came back from the injury, but he has yet to get over 65% of the snaps. I think he's going to eclipse 65, maybe even 75% of the snaps. I think he fully takes over from Zach Moss this week. I like the matchup. I like the game script. So I'm starting JT over guys like Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, but probably not over guys like Alvin Kamara, who have a little more of that pass-catching upside.
Interesting. Go again, Josh Jacobs. I mean, that guy's been getting a ton of workload and opportunity. Rookie quarterback there, maybe dumps it down to him. That's if it was Garoppolo, I'd probably stick with Jacobs just because I think Garoppolo like adds that little extra layer. I'm just worried that O'Connell just doesn't have that layer to the offense where I think they can stack the box against the Raiders this week and kind of just take Jacobs out of it and force O'Connell to throw to Adams or Jacoby Myers or Michael Mayer. Yeah. But I do think I think it's interesting. Jonathan Taylor, it'll be interesting to see if he does get that full workload because I've been torn as far as is Zach Moss thing just going to keep coming, or at some point is Jonathan Taylor going to get the lion's share of this backfield back? It's been kind of tough. I've been considering possible trades for Zach Moss, or do I hang on to him in a couple leagues, but.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Moss is still a good piece because I still think they're going to rotate him in. It depends on how the season goes for the Colts. If they're in contention for the playoffs, I think we see more Zach Moss. But I think if they're out, I think they just run JT and just run him into the ground, to be honest with you, because they didn't want to pay him. They're just going to use him and abuse him. But I think if they have a shot, the playoffs will try to save him for that. But I don't see that happening for them.
But they did extend Taylor, though. I mean, I don't know how much they want to use and abuse him.
Well, I mean, I think they're just going to run with them and do what they got to do. I think that's just their mentality. Is like, he's our best player. Just give him the ball and run it. So, Joe, who's your sleeper running back this week?
Yeah, I'm going with Royce Freeman this week. A guy that led the way for the Rams backfield last week, playing 53% of the snaps, and also had more routes run than Henderson last week. Packers defense has given up the 8th most fantasy points per game, the 14th highest touchdown rate, and the 5th most missed tackles to the running back position. And I like Freeman for the touchdown upside as well over Henderson in that backfield. I think people like Henderson, but to be honest, I mean, Royce Freeman has been more efficient and looked like the better back. We'll see if that equates to more carries. And I like the matchup against the Packers. And I think, at this point, Aaron Jones has been really disappointing, still doesn't look healthy. I think you could roll the dice and maybe give a chance to Royce Freeman, or if you're debating whether or not to start Chuba Hubbard against a tough Indianapolis Colts defense, I think you could go Royce Freeman as well. The tough one, it would be, I think I would go with Gus Edwards over Royce Freeman, but that's kind of a toss up there.
Oh, man, this was tough. When I saw Royce Freeman in the show doc, I was like, ooh, I love Darrell Henderson. I think he's a better fit for that offense. But you're right. He has outsnapped him. He, is more efficient with his carries. So another week in that offense, another week learning the plays and the system, he could take over. Whew. I mean, it's so hard to not play Aaron Jones because we know what Aaron Jones is when he's healthy. He just has not been anywhere close to that this year. I agree with you. Chuba Hubbard, maybe. I think he's going to take over from Miles Sanders. I agree with you. I'm not starting him over Gus Edwards. I like the touchdown upside for Gus Edwards. But, yeah, Royce Freeman's an interesting sleeper running back there. I'm curious to see how that works out for you there, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing him. I got him in a sleeper league. And I'm with the bye weeks and stuff. I'm playing them, so I mean I'm putting my money where my mouth is. But just looking for some running backs that are down the list. That was also kind of tough for me to do the comparables because it's like he's in like the 20s, and I'm like, well, I'd start him over most of these guys, so I had to bring him up a little bit.
Yeah, you got to bring him up at that point. That's the hard part when we're comparing players is we look at the comparable list and we're like, man, this guy's so far down, but it's of course you're going to start Royce Freeman. If you believe in Royce Freeman, you're going to start him over the likes of
it was like Najee Harris and a couple of those guys, like
Alexander Madison, those horrible backs like that. So I'll give you my stinker play for the week, and it kind of might go against what most people think, but it's Tony Pollard this week for the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles are giving up the least amount of points to running backs. Tony Pollard hasn't seen 15 carries or more than 15 carries since week 3. This could be a high-scoring game, which I think lends itself to the passing game. We obviously like Dak Prescott as our smash quarterback. I just think that this could be a game where they just don't. Tony Pollard's just not involved. He didn't do great last year against Philly, so they kind of boxed him in. Philly's pass rush is really good, so he might have to stay in and block more. So I like this game for Dak and CeeDee Lamb and Ferguson and maybe like a Brandon Cooks, but I don't love it for Tony Pollard. So I'm gonna start guys like Walker, probably Rachaad White, and probably Chuba Hubbard over him.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The thing with the Eagles is that you can't run against them, but you can pass on them, and that's why we like the Dak Prescott option. But I like your call. I think Pollard is in for a disappointing game just because the interior part of that defensive line for the Eagles is so good, and it's so tough to run on them. Even Tony Pollard will most likely struggle. Plus, he's honestly been disappointing this year in general. I mean, people had these high hopes because Ezekiel Elliott was gone that he was just going to take over and be like a top 5 fantasy running back, and we just haven't seen it.
Yeah, he had a couple good weeks to start and then kind of has fallen off. Now he does get the pass catching work. There is no one else in that backfield that really does the pass catching work. So that could be part of a game that could salvage his fantasy game, but I think it's just going to be a letdown. Before we go to wide receivers, if you like this video, if you're watching live, drop some of your questions in the chat. If you're watching not live, you can drop in the chat. We'll try to get back to you. We ask you to like, subscribe, hit all the buttons and notifications, whatever it is. Follow us on Twitter. Really helps us out as a channel, helps us out as a company. We're growing. We're here every Thursday live. You start sits. We are here Mondays doing buys. We are here on Tuesdays doing other videos. We got videos coming all the time. We try to be active with you guys. Ask your questions. So if you can hit the like and subscribe, we appreciate it. Joe, who is your smash wide receiver this week?
Yeah, to your point, with your sleeper, Zach Wilson, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. The Jets offense and Zach Wilson, and Garrett Wilson, I think they finally just figured out that they need to get the ball to Garrett Wilson and get it to their best playmaker and put it in his hands, as he's been targeted 25 times the last 2 weeks. We've talked about how bad the Chargers defense has been, but they've allowed the 6th highest PPR points per target and the 5th most receiving touchdowns to perimeter wide receivers. So I think Garrett Wilson's in line for a smash week this week. I'd be looking to start him over guys like, Cooper Kupp. Could be tough, but I also don't know what he's going to do with Brett Rippon as quarterback. That's a little concerning to me. Jalen Waddle against the Chiefs. That's not the best matchup for him. I'd play him over Keenan Allen against the New York Jets. Same game here, but can't go any higher than CeeDee Lamb. That's where my line is drawn.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. Like, I obviously like Zach Wilson, so I think Garrett Wilson's a big part of that. He is being targeted. He has kind of taken over as that true one. Like, there was some talk. It was like him and Alan Lazard are back and forth. But I think with Wilson, that Wilson to Wilson connection is huge. Not sure I'm starting him over Cooper Kupp. I think even with Brett Rippon, I'm in on Cooper Kupp, out on Puka Nacua, because I think Cooper Kupp's that short yardage guy where Puka Nacua's got a little more a higher ADOT. So I think Cooper Kupp can get the 5-yard screen and rush it for 30 yards, and he'll save his day. Even with Brett Rippon or Dresser Wynn or whoever it might be throwing the ball, it might still be Stafford with a bum thumb. But I think I'm definitely starting him over Waddle, Keenan Allen. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not starting him over CeeDee Lamb. But he's a good smash play, and I think it's what we've wanted from Garrett Wilson. I think it's what he was drafted to be. I think he finally pays off this week.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Garrett Wilson in a couple leagues and just crushed with the Rodgers thing week 1, but finally seeing it. He's finally becoming more relevant. I think this is the big breakout game. I know he's had like 100 yards, game last week, but maybe he gets the touchdown and really puts it over the top.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so my sleeper of the week is Atlanta Falcon wide receiver Drake London, if he's healthy. Now, he does have a groin injury, which means he's just like long consecutive, did not practice this week. So if he doesn't play, you'll have to pivot off him. But if he plays, I like Drake London this week. The Vikings are giving up the 5th most points to wide receivers. They don't have a great corner to lock him down, so I'm not worried about the coverage. They have a new QB in Taylor Heinicke, who was like good in Washington for Terry McLaurin, so I think it's okay. I think Heinicke will be looking for Drake London and Kyle Pitts, so I think it's more of like, hey, these are my stars. I need to give them the ball. So if Drake London plays, I like him as my sleeper pick, and I'm probably paying him over some of these guys like Jordan Addison, Demario Douglas, who's like the new hotness right now. I'm probably not starting him over Tyler Lockett, but I think if he was fully healthy, I would. But I think that questionable tags leads me to start Lockett over Drake London this week.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I definitely would play Lockett over Drake London, but I do like the sleeper potential. I like him more now that they named Heinicke as the quarterback. Yeah. Ritter had his games here and there, but for the most part, just disappointing and was turning the ball over too much for the Falcons to rely on him. And, Heinicke's a gamer. He's not afraid to kind of chuck it and give these guys a chance. So I think that's exactly what Drake London and Kyle Pitts and the people of this offense need.
Yeah. So, Joe, who is your stinker wide receiver this week?
Yeah, I'm going with Keenan Allen this week. Like we talked about the Jets and the tough defensive matchup the Chargers are facing with, Herbert. If I think Herbert's going to stink, well, there's a good chance that Keenan Allen is. Jets have allowed only 1 touchdown and the lowest PPR points per target to slot receivers this year. So the matchup's just not looking good. Definitely rolling with guys like Kupp, Waddle, Pittman over Keenan Allen. But if it came down to Keenan Allen like versus a Devonta Smith, I'd play Devonta Smith or Keenan Allen over Devonta Smith rather.
Yeah, I agree with you. Devonta Smith has just been such a letdown, but I agree. If we're out on Herbert, we have to be out on Keenan Allen. Seeing Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed is not a good matchup. There's just not a lot of – there's only so much moving around you can do with him, and to try to get him good matches, I don't think it's possible against the Jets. So I agree with you. I'm starting him. I'm starting Kupp, Waddle, Pittman over him, but probably starting him over Devonta Smith, who's just been a letdown. Let's move on to the tight end position. I'm going to give you my smash play, and it is Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys are giving up the 7th most points to tight ends, which isn't great, but it's not horrible. The Cowboys have good shutdown corners, so they could lock down A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So I'm kind of down on both of them this week, and that might open up the middle for Dallas Goedert. I think it's a high-scoring game. We know this game could be the highest scoring of the week, one of the highest scoring of the season. I just think Dallas Goedert, who has seen a lot of targets the past few weeks, has been trending in the right direction. I like what he can do in this game against the Cowboys. And so I'm going to start him over guys like Dalton Kincaid, who I think is the big hot buzz and everybody's all excited about, who I've been traditionally down on. I still think he's good, not great. I think he's a great athlete. I just don't think they use him a ton. I'm probably starting him over guys like TJ Hawkinson. The question for me is Travis Kelce, and if I start Goddard over Travis Kelce, we know the Taylor Swift effect that he's like 55 yards without Taylor Swift in the game. She's not going to be in Germany. Them traveling today to Germany does leave me a lot more questions with that jet lag. So I might start Dallas Goedert over Travis Kelce, which seems crazy to say because it's Travis Kelce, but I think that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. I mean, I don't expect Taylor Swift to be traveling to Germany to watch Travis play. So with that, I mean, yeah, his ceiling is definitely capped. But yeah, I mean, I like Goddard as your smash play this week. Like you said, Cowboys have the corners, but I think the middle of the defense is potentially vulnerable for Goddard to hit the seams and get those big plays that he can create down the field.
Yeah. And I think he's just being used more, which I love. I love seeing that he's picking up the targets and the usage. We want our tight ends to be playing a ton of snaps, and we want him to see targets. I think he's overtaken Devonta Smith as the number 2 target on that team, which I really like for tight end. So that's why I'm in on Dallas Goedert. Joe, who's your sleeper tight end this week?
Yeah, it's another injured guy, but I'm going to go with Luke Musgrave. He is questionable with the ankle injury. He's still been playing the last couple of weeks with it, but definitely, hasn't had as large of a role with this injury. Hasn't looked as good. But if there's anything that could possibly cure or help that ankle injury, it might be this matchup against the Rams defense. The Rams have allowed the 6th highest fantasy points per game and the highest yards per reception to tight ends. I really like the matchup. I'd like this, even more for Luke Musgrave if he wasn't battling the ankle injury. But I think Jordan Love and the Packers need to reassess this offense and maybe stop taking so many shots down the field, and just Love needs to start taking some of these short passes. And I think that's where, Musgrave could really eat in this matchup. And I'd like to play that, I'd rather play Musgrave over guys like Cole Kmet and David Njoku this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I've never wanted to start David Njoku one day in my life in fantasy. But I do like this matchup. I think it's a good one. I am worried. But David Njoku's never good. Like, he just never, ever is good. Everybody says he's good, and he's never once been good. Like, he has one good game. He started me, he sucks. So I'd never have wanted to start him a day in my life. I've never liked David Njoku. Never going to start him. But I like Luke Musgrave. I wish the ankle was fully healthy, but I agree. Jordan Love's got to figure something out, and it looks like when he's been successful, it's been when he's targeting Luke Musgrave. So I think this could be a good matchup for him. I agree. Kmet with Taysom Bagent starting, and I'm just not super thrilled with Bears offense. So I like Musgrave as a sleeper. I'm going to give you my stinker, and it's going to shock some people, but it's Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Like, Seattle's given up the 9th fewest points to tight ends, but they've only given up 1 touchdown to tight ends this season. Now, follow me down this pathway, Joe. It's Sunday. It's Odell Beckham's birthday. If he's playing, now he was the squeaky wheel last week, like slamming his helmet, was upset he didn't get. If we believe the squeaky wheel narrative and we believe birthday narrative, both those things line up for Odell Beckham to have a good game on Sunday, which means that maybe someone else doesn't, and that's probably Mark Andrews. I'm not sure I love the matchup against Seattle. I think it could be a game where, again, Baltimore gets up, Seattle doesn't put up a ton of points, and they run with Hill a lot, and Gus Bus, and it could just be a running game. Lamar's going to run a few in. So I'm going to start guys like Kyle Pitts and Taysom Hill over Mark Andrews. I think I draw the line at Trey McBride just with Clayton Tune there. I don't know what Clayton Tune is, so I'm worried to start any piece of that Arizona offense. So I think I'm starting Taysom Hill for sure. Definitely Kyle Pitts over Mark Andrews, but I'm probably starting Andrews over Trey McBride this week.
Yeah, this is a bold stinker, Dustin. I mean, you're going all the way down the path of this, stuff with the old Odell Beckham Jr. stuff.
It's his birthday, man. You got to give him a birthday touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I hope for their sake they do, because I mean, we've seen this guy cause the drama with the team and on the sidelines, and it starts getting loud if you don't start fixing it. I mean, we saw it in Cleveland. I mean, his dad was posting videos of Baker Mayfield targeting and incompletions. Yeah.
And they're targeting Odell. He's just not catching them, really. Like, he dropped the one touchdown this week, and that's where he really slammed his helmet. So I think they try to fix that this week.
Yeah. Well, then he shouldn't. He's only got room to be mad at himself then, because he didn't catch the ball. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to bet against Mark Andrews, but you got the stats in the matchup. I don't know. I mean, Kyle Pitts and some of these guys you're starting over them. I mean, that's kind of tough.
Yeah, Kyle
I
Pitts
mean,
has been I mean, I've been out on Kyle Pitts, but he's seen five targets past 2 games. Before that, 6, 11 targets. Like, he's got decent amount of targets now. He's not catching a ton of his balls either, but you only need to catch 3 passes for like 40 yards to be a top 10 tight end. Really, I mean, you don't need to do a lot to be a top 10 tight end in fantasy. So
no, I
if
mean,
Mark
if you get
Andrews
in
only
the end
catches
zone,
3 balls for 40 yards, like, yeah, he's a top 10 guy, but like, that's not what you want for Mark Andrews. You're expecting top 3 production from Mark Andrews, and I just don't think you're going to get that this week.
yeah, it could make sense. I mean, basically for tight ends these days, if you get a touchdown, you're like top 5 automatically.
If you get a touchdown, you're top 5. But that's saying, like, if in a PPR league, 3 catches for 30 yards, that's 6 points. That's pretty decent for tight ends.
Yeah, it's really tough how much of a crapshoot it is, man.
Yeah, especially when you got Kittle on a bye this week. I think Kittle's the only really good one on bye this week. So I think you're right.
Sam Laporta.
Sam Laporta. Yep, forgot about the line. Yep. So you got Kittle and Laporta on bye this week. Next week it's Kelsey and I think Goddard on a bye. So I think you can do all right picking up guys like Pitts and Taysom Hill. I've seen a lot of people like, should I pick up Taysom Hill? I'm like, yes. Why would you not? Pick him up and put him in your lineup. So I think you could have another good week. So let's get to our stack of the week. When we say stack, we're talking about a quarterback and a receiving option, usually wide receiver, but can be a tight end. Joe, who is your stack of the week?
Yeah, my stack of the week, I'm going to kind of a risky one, Dustin, but I'm going with Derek Carr and Chris Olave. I think this is a get-right week for them. We've seen the disconnect that they've had and the frustration that Carr has had with Olave, but I think it comes together with a great matchup against the Chicago defense, and they're taking the shots down the field, and I think they're going to be successful this week.
Yeah, if he can't do it against Chicago, he's just not going to do it. It's interesting that you picked Olave. I probably would have picked Michael Thomas, who I think is the safer play. I think Olave is the higher end play. I think Michael Thomas is a safe play. I think Rashid Shaheed is that boom bust play. But I don't think it's a bad matchup. It is the Bears, so theoretically they should be able to do it because everyone's looked good against the Bears. My stack of the week is 2 guys we've talked about. It's Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I think it's going to be a big shootout there against the divisional rival in the Eagles, so I'm expecting them to put up good numbers this week.
Yeah,
and I'm surprised we didn't put Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson in here because we both like them as our smash plays at court. A sleeper quarterback and our smash wide receiver, but that's another good stack. It's weird to me that there's some good stacks considering we have some crap quarterbacks playing this week.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, we got the likes of Clayton Tune out there this week. Maybe we have PJ Walker again, depending on how things shake out with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. I don't think Deshaun Watson's playing, but
the rookie quarterback Minnesota as well. So
yeah, it's not great this week at quarterback play, and I think it's this part of the season. If you're playing right now and you're struggling and you're trying to get a win, like finding those diamonds in the rough, it's not going to be this like, oh my gosh, I've got this stacked lineup. It might just be like a gross lineup that wins you your week this week, and that's all you need. Just need to get wins. Doesn't matter if it's pretty or not. Doesn't matter if you're the highest scorer as long as you win. Joe, before we go, we had the trade deadline this past week in the NFL. Anything stand out to you this past week? Let's just talk about a little bit of news, some trade deadline. Anything that stood out to you in terms of a sit-start, guys you're potentially liking their future post-trade deadline?
I mean, one guy I kind of like, I like the Donovan Peoples-Jones' situation better with the Lions than, in Cleveland. They seem to just phase him out in Cleveland. But, with the retirement in Detroit that they had there at the wide receiver with Marvin Jones, yeah. And, Jameson Williams hasn't looked good, and they need somebody to step up. Josh Reynolds is iffy. So, I mean, I do think they need somebody to step up and, help Sam Laporta, help Amon-Ra St. Brown in that offense. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is capable. We've seen it. And I think he's an interesting option going forward with the Lions offense.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, he's coming home. He played his college ball in Michigan, so he's got a lot of connections there. I really like that one. I really like TJ Hawkinson with the addition of Joshua Dobbs in Minnesota. We saw Joshua Dobbs hyper target Zach Ertz and Trey McBride, make them look really good fantasy options. So I think it's a huge bump up for TJ Hawkinson, who was already a top 3 tight end. Like now he's pushing Travis Kelce, I think, for the top 1 the rest of the season. So I like that for his future going forward. I think he's going to be a must start every week once Joshua Dobbs starts next week. So interesting trade deadline. We didn't get a ton of huge news, but we got some decent starts that I think will help you in the future if you're looking for your sit starts. As things change, you have to change your evaluation on players. So This has been Week 9 Sit Starts from Front Office Pros. Again, if you like this video, hit the smash like, subscribe button, and we'll be back next week for Week 10 Sit Starts.